Welcome to Learning with UNP. In this session of Business Intelligence with Power BI, we will look into Introduction to DAX in Power BI. In this session, we will focus on understanding what DAX is, starting with its full form and purpose. Learn about the two main types of DAX, calculated columns and measures. Dive deeper into calculated columns, their purpose, and how they are used. Explore measures, their importance, and their unique ability to perform calculations dynamically. Finally, we will understand the two types of measures, implicit measure and explicit measure. Let's begin with the basics. Let's start by understanding what DAX stands for. The full form of DAX is Data Analysis Expressions. Now, what is DAX? DAX is essentially a language that allows us to create formulas and expressions in Power BI. It uses a combination of functions like sum, average, etc., operators like plus, minus, etc., constants like 10, 20, etc. Using DAX, we can perform calculations on our data and analyze it in powerful ways. Let's say we have a table with sales data and we want to calculate the total sales. We can use DAX formula as sum of sales amount. This formula that I just said adds up all the values in the amount column of our sales table, giving us the total sales. Here comes a question as to why is DAX important. DAX is like a brain behind Power BI, helping us to go beyond just displaying data. It allows us to create meaningful calculations which lead to insights and better decisions. Now that we know what DAX is, let's move on to where it is used. DAX expressions are primarily used in two areas of Power BI, calculated columns and measures. Think of it like this. Calculated columns are like adding a new field or attribute to our dataset, whereas measures are calculations that happen dynamically. They don't store the result in the dataset but instead calculate it based on the context, such as filters applied to our visuals. Let's start with understanding calculated columns in depth. A calculated column is a column that we create and add to our table using a DAX formula. It is stored in our dataset just like any other column. Why do we need to use calculated columns? Sometimes the data we have is not enough for our analysis. We may need to create additional fields or attributes to get a deeper understanding. Calculated column allows us to enrich our dataset. Now the question is, how does it work? Let's take an example. Imagine we are analyzing sales data. Our table has two columns, quantity that represents the number of items sold, unit price that represents the price per item. To find the total price for each sale, we can create a new calculated column with this formula. Total price equals to sales of quantity into sales of unit price. This column will store the total price for each row in the table. An important point to be noted here is that the calculated columns are pre-calculated and stored in the data model. This means they don't change based on filters or user interactions in our visuals. Now let's move on to measures. What is a measure? A measure is a formula that performs calculation on our data, but unlike calculated columns, it does not store the results in our table. Instead, it calculates the results dynamically based on the context in which it is used. Why do we need to use measures? Measures are ideal for summarizing data in visuals like charts and tables. They can handle large data sets efficiently and only calculate results when needed. Now the question is, how does it work? Let's revisit our sales example. To calculate the total sales for a chart, we can create a measure using the formula total sales equal to sum of sales of amount. Here is what makes measures special. If we filter the chart to show sales for a specific region, the measure dynamically recalculates the total for that region. Measures are context sensitive, meaning they adapt to filters and slices applied to our visuals. With this understanding, let's now explore the two types of measures in Power BI. Measures in Power BI can be classified into implicit measure and explicit measure. We will discuss each type in detail, starting with implicit measure. What is an implicit measure? Implicit measures are automatically created by Power BI when we drag a numeric field into a visual, such as a chart or table. The features of implicit measure are they are quick and easy to use. They don't require any manual DAX formulas. However, they offer limited customization. For example, if we drag the sales amount column into a bar chart, Power BI automatically calculates the total sales for us. This is an implicit measure. While implicit measures are convenient, they may not meet all our analysis needs. For advanced and reusable calculations, we need explicit measures. What is an explicit measure? Explicit measures are created manually by users using DAX formulas. They give us the complete control over our calculations. The features of explicit measure are they are highly customizable. We can reuse them across multiple visuals. They are ideal for complex or specific calculations. For example, let's say we want to calculate the average sales. We can create an explicit measure with the formula average sales is equal to average of sales amount. Another point to be noted here is that unlike implicit measures, explicit measures allow us to name the calculation and apply it consistently across our Power BI report. Finally, mastering DAX is like learning the language of data analysis in Power BI. It empowers us to create meaningful calculations, uncover insights, and make better decisions. This is all about today's lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.